Imagine a powder so powerful that it can bring the dead back to life, or at least make the living appear dead. This is not a scene from a Hollywood movie, but a legend rooted deep in the heart of Haiti. This is the story of Haitian zombie dust, a mysterious powder that has fascinated and terrified people for centuries. In Haitian voodoo, the concept of the zombie is not about brain-eating monsters, but about the control of a person's soul. The origins of the zombie legend can be traced back to the island's history of slavery and colonial oppression. For the enslaved, the idea of becoming a zombie, a mindless servant with no will of their own, was a metaphor for their lived reality. Central to the zombie legend is the idea of the mysterious powder, zombie dust. This powder, according to folklore, could turn a living person into a zombie by inducing a state of near death. The victim would be buried alive, only to be resurrected and enslaved by a bakor, a voodoo sorcerer.
Zombies were never actually monsters. They were victims.
That creator explains the Haitian origins of the zombie monster and how the zombie is actually a victim, not a monster. She goes on to give like a metaphorical explanation for what zombies really are. But I'm gonna tell you what my Haitian mother told me a zombie is. Strap in, cause shit's about to get weird. So this explanation starts with the blowfish. Who remembers the Simpsons episode where they eat the dangerous part of the blowfish? Those who don't know, blowfish is one of the most expensive delicacies and one of the most dangerous foods to eat on this planet. And that's because the blowfish, if you don't chop it up properly when you're preparing it, can be poisonous as hell. So in Haiti, this poison from the blowfish is turned into a powder. And the story goes, if you have done somebody wrong, or somebody feels like you've done somebody wrong, or you're just up to some plain no good, what some people will do is get this powder and dose that person with it. And what this powder does is it mimics death. So you appear to die, and I don't know if it's still like this, but back in the day when you died in Haiti, you were pretty much buried the same day. So your family buries you thinking that you're dead, but the person who dosed you knows that you're really not dead. And so late at night, they go into the graveyard and they dig you up, take you home, and turn you into their slave. Because one of the effects of this powder is that you are still alive, but in a zombie-like state. You can't speak, you can't really do anything except for work. And whoever dosed you and is keeping you captive, that's what they do. They put you to work for the rest of your life. So in that sense, yes.
Today we have Nancy Eller, who was pronounced dead January 18th, 2019. She was buried the next day. 3 years later, she comes back to her village after being pronounced dead and buried. Now, where was Nancy at this time? Nancy was actually working on a plantation as a slave for a man and woman. Where's the location? She doesn't know. So, this is how Nancy got away. The kidnappers had 3 other women that were working on their plantation. Now, they sent them out to the marketplace to buy food. Nancy saw the opportunity and she left and got away and went back home. The question that a lot of people asked was, how did she find her way back home?
Love ain't worth your life, I tell you that. Once you leave.
You guys been asking me for story time. I'm here with my wife. She speaks better English than I do. She will tell you guys the story.
Okay, so the story about his sister that died and rose up again. That's very common in Haitian culture. So what happened was his sister got into an altercation with a woman in the neighborhood. I guess in English it would be like a witch. These people practice black magic. but they don't let it be known like that. So she got into an altercation with the woman, and she disrespected her, fussed her out. One thing about Haitians, they do not like how they don't like when younger people disrespect adults. They take that very seriously. And so I guess she fussed out the woman. The woman said, all right, I'll give you 3 days. They don't usually say much. When they're witches like that and they practice black magic and they know what they're doing, they don't say too much to you. They don't do too much talking. They just give you a time frame, or they don't say nothing at all. But for her, I think the woman told her, I give you 3 days. And then the sister was like, despite her being raised up in that culture, she still disregarded the woman, still was rude. And then when the 3 days came, she got sick. She had a fever, and then no medication would bring down the fever. No doctor could help. And then they heard that she passed. So after
2 months.
After 2 months?
Yeah.
Okay, she passed, and then the funeral was held, and then he has an uncle that practices the black magic, and then they end up finding out that it was through black magic she died, not from natural fever or sickness. And then he did what he did, and he rose her up from the dead. I know it sounds crazy. The reason why I believe it, I've been hearing these stories since I was a kid too, because my parents are from Haiti as well. But someone who does not have a Haitian or African background or Caribbean background, it seems crazy. It seems like a story, and a lot of people don't like to believe it, but there's so many stories about this stuff, like, but they're not stories. They're reality that happens back on that island. But that's basically in a nutshell what happened, unless you want me to say something else.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so that's what happened to her. And for the uncle that was able to raise her from the dead, the reason why he was able to do it, number one, he practices witchcraft as well, like a warlock. I don't know, I don't use these terms in English, but with people who practice black magic, I guess there's levels to it. So you have to have the person who's gonna raise the one that's dead. Because in a sense, the woman who did it, she did it to teach a lesson, because she was upset, to show the family that she don't play. So if you're gonna mess with black magic like that, you have to be in black magic, and your level has to be higher than the person who did it. So let's say this, I'm just making this up, the level part, because I don't really know the numbers or whatever. But let's say that woman was a level 4 witch. A level 1, 2, or 3 wouldn't be able to do it, and if they do, she can overpower them and target them and target their family. So it would have to be a level 5, level 6, someone who has a higher level than she. So in a sense, it creates a sense of fear for the woman, because she knows, okay, if he was able to do that, he has a higher level than me. So that's why he was able to raise her from the dead without there being any repercussions. Yes, she's still alive. She's still back on the island. The thing with them, after being dead for so long, when they are brought back, they're not the same. They're a little off. It's like they didn't know what happened. They're like confused. There's something off about them, and then you can't really talk about what happened. You can't keep reminding them of their past, if I'm not mistaken, right? You don't keep telling them, this is what happened to you. And is it scary? I'm sure it was scary to see that, you're living with a dead, or used to be dead, sibling. Again, I was born and raised here, but I've heard these stories. Again, they're not stories. I've heard people speak of these events from Haiti, and I asked the same questions you guys have asked, but I've been asking them since I was a kid. So now it's like, okay, yeah, this is what happens.
For the people who doesn't believe me, I don't know if you guys remember the North Carolina lady who went to Haiti for voodoo. I don't know what she was doing in Haiti. She was practicing voodoo for 2 weeks, and after a couple of days, they said that she died. She's not she's not. She's still alive. She may not be a human anymore, but she's still alive. Whatever happened to her, I know people who can bring her back. But it's not my business. I don't want to get into that. But I'm pretty sure the same thing that happened to my sister, it's the same thing that's going to happen to her. But I don't want to talk about that. It's not my business. I stay out of it.
Welcome to another episode of You Gonna Learn Today. On this episode, we're talking about the serpent and the rainbow, when art imitates life, and the real life case of Haitian zombies. Let's go. Even today, the Wes Craven film sits in the pantheon of classic horror films. When it debuted in 1988, the movie took the industry by storm due to its bold approach to the intersection of religion and horror. Voodoo was a vastly understudied and misunderstood spirituality, and the film only added to the mass hysteria behind the practice. Most will agree that a horror film becomes that much scarier when it is prepositioned with the phrase, inspired by true events. The idea that what comes next has some authenticity to it actually enhances the horror of most movies. The Serpent and the Rainbow is inspired by true events, which makes this Hollywood adaptation even more of a cult classic today. Haitian voodoo captivated the West and simultaneously scared the shit out of it. Yet that fear was not enough to drive off American capitalists looking to profit off of West African spiritual practices. The movie is inspired by the real-life story of a Haitian man named Clavius Narcisse. Clavius had fallen ill and admitted himself to Schweitzer Hospital on April 30th, 1962. 3 days later, he died and was held in cold storage until his burial. In 1980, Clavius' sister, Angelina Narcisse, was shopping in a local market in the city of Lestede. When she screamed out in terror, Clavius was standing right in front of her, 18 years after his burial. Angelina couldn't believe her eyes, as she was quite certain that her brother was dead and buried, and she was not wrong. Yet, she wasn't entirely right either. Her brother had in fact died and was buried, but he was not dead. Her brother had been turned into a zombie, presumably through the power of voodoo. Clavius had been arguing with his brother over landed inheritance, and his brother had him poisoned by a local shaman. The shaman mixed toxins from a toad and pufferfish that put him in a zombie-like state and mimicked signs of actual death. After his burial, Clavius was dug up and forced into slavery on a sugar plantation. Rumors of this voodoo-inspired concoction and its abilities reached the medical world in America, who had a desire to monetize it for practical use in the pharmaceutical industry. Haitian psychiatrist Lamarck Doyon reached out to colleagues in America. Harvard scientist Wade Davis was dispatched to Haiti to investigate and to retrieve the ingredients to bring back to America. What he discovered was beyond anything he was prepared for. So much so that he would go on to write about his experience. Wade Davis is a PhD educated and accomplished anthropologist and ethnobotanist and writer who has studied indigenous cultures all over the world. He published several books, but none were as popular as the monograph entitled The Serpent and the Rainbow, based on his account in Haiti while studying voodoo. Davis did encounter voodoo during his research. He did experience things that could not be explained through science. Wade saw things that were beyond his comprehension and his medical expertise. Yet, in the end, he concluded that zombies in Haitian culture were not the result of magic, rather the result of carefully administered powerful toxins. Additionally, Wade believed that the so-called zombie concoction absolutely could not come back to America for fear that capitalists would weaponize it. He understood more than anyone American greed and the West's desire to demonize voodoo. Yet he was careful to not dismiss the presence of voodoo and its awesome power. Now you know.